Huawei is something that's very dangerous. We cannot allow any other country to outcompete the United States in this powerful industry of the future.
We're not just going to deny a single company in China access to our semiconductor technology. We're going to deny the whole country.
Welcome to China Gateway, where we explore how the world connects with China, one brand story at a time.
Today, we're doing a deep dive into a story that's really captivated the tech world and, frankly, the geopolitical world, too. We're talking about Huawei.
Yeah, it's this incredible saga, isn't it? How a company that was, at the absolute top of its game in 5G and smartphones,
The global leader.
gets systematically cut off from critical Western tech. And somehow it not only survives, but, well, transforms. It's quite the story.
Right, and that's the mission today, really. How did they manage that rebuild? I mean, facing what looked like, honestly, an existential threat, something that should have just finished them.
Absolutely. How do you re-engineer your entire supply chain, pivot your whole product line almost overnight?
It's resilience, but on a scale that's hard to comprehend.
It's worth saying early on, most companies would collapse after being banned by half the world. Huawei did the opposite.
They really did.
Yeah.
But before we get into the how, we need to understand the why behind that resilience. And maybe question if any company without that specific context could pull it off.
Good point. Where do we start? The beginning feels right. The founder, Ren Zhengfei.
Yes, Ren Zhengfei. Born 1944, rural Guizhou, super tough background experience, famine, hardship. Then he was a military engineer, demobilized in the 80s.
And all that really forged this survivalist outlook, didn't it? That gritty culture Huawei became known for.
Completely. It baked it in from day one. And the start was, well, tiny. Founded in Shenzhen, 1987. The starting capital was just CNY 21,000.
Which is what, about 5,000 US dollars?
Roughly, yeah. And he couldn't get state bank loans initially, so he had to borrow at these just punishing interest rates, like 20, 30%.
Wow, just to get off the ground.
And that struggle, that precarity, directly fed into the famous wolf culture. He kept a tiny stake himself, gave most ownership to employees.
So everyone was literally invested. They had skin in the game.
Exactly. Ready to eat bitterness, as the saying goes, alongside him. It created this incredibly driven workforce.
Okay, so they start small, high pressure. What was the first big strategic move?
It actually came out of a crisis, which is kind of a theme here.
Mm-hmm.
They were initially reselling imported telecom switches. But around 1990, their supplier cut them off.
Ah, so Ren faced a choice. Find someone else
Or build it themselves.
Yeah.
And he made this huge gamble, sank $100 million, about $20 million back then, basically everything they had into R&D.
To build their own telecom gear from scratch. No joint ventures, pure indigenous tech.
That insistence was crucial. It meant down the line, they weren't totally dependent on foreign IP.
Yeah.
Foresight, maybe, or just necessity.
And that first product, the CNC08 switch in '93, where did it take off?
Not the big cities, interestingly. It found its market in the Chinese countryside, the places everyone else was ignoring.
Which forced them to build tough, right?
Oh yeah, they called it guerrilla engineering. Their gear had to handle rats, dust, unstable power grids, stuff you don't worry about in a Shanghai office tower.
That ruggedness became an advantage.
A massive one. By the mid-90s, they weren't just some small supplier anymore. They were named a national telecom champion. They even built the PLA's first nationwide communications network. That rural grounding was key.
So that experience, building tough, affordable stuff for tricky environments,
Was the perfect launchpad for going global, especially into other developing markets. By 2005, their overseas contracts actually pulled ahead of domestic sales. First time ever.
and the strategy was pretty straightforward, wasn't it?
Yeah, undercut the Western giants on price. And crucially, offered generous credit lines, often backed by Chinese policy banks, to seal the deals in places like Asia, Africa, Latin America.
And it worked massively.
Rocketed them to the top. By 2017, they'd overtaken Ericsson, world's biggest telecom equipment supplier, 28% market share. And they were leading the 5G charge globally.
Over 40,000 5G base stations deployed worldwide. These are the core bits of the network.
The absolute core. They were everywhere. And it wasn't just infrastructure.
No, the consumer brand was booming too. The Mate series, the P series phones, known for those Leica cameras.
Great phones. And they were running on Google's Android, using Google Mobile Services, which made them huge internationally.
So big, in fact, that in Q2 2018, they overtook Apple, became the world's #2 smartphone maker.
Just incredible momentum on infrastructure, on consumer tech.
Yeah.
They were flying high.
And then, May 2019, the hammer falls.
Yeah. The U.S. puts Huawei on the entity list. National security concerns cited, which Huawei always denied, but the effect was immediate. American firms couldn't sell to them without a license.
Which meant no more American components.
And crucially, no more software licenses for key things. The first big blow, arguably, was Google.
Right. Google publicly complies. Suddenly, new Huawei phones outside China can't ship with Google mobile services. No Play Store, no Gmail, no Maps.
For international consumers, it basically crippled the phones overnight. You buy this amazing hardware, but the ecosystem, the apps you rely on, just aren't there.
Like a car with no gas stations nearby.
Pretty much. And if the software hit was bad, the hardware one was maybe even worse. In 2020, the sanctions tightened again.
This was the chip strangulation, wasn't it?
Exactly. It blocked any chip foundry using US-made equipment, and that includes giants like TSMC in Taiwan from making Huawei's own advanced Kirin processors.
So their pipeline for high-end chips just dried up.
Completely. By September 2020, gone. No more cutting-edge Kirin chips.
And the geopolitical pressure spread. Allies started banning Huawei's 5G gear too. Australia, Japan, parts of Europe.
Plus the whole drama around the CFO, Meng Wanzhou, being arrested, it just escalated everything.
The impact must have been brutal financially.
Well, it was. Global smartphone sales just plummeted, down over 80% by 2021. Overall revenues dropped sharply from that $122 billion peak in 2019.
Most people thought, okay, that's it. Huawei, as we knew it, is finished.
And you could see why they'd think that. But what happened internally was, well, remarkable. This pressure forced them into this hyper-efficient, R&D-focused survival mode.
Right. Instead of folding, they declared, almost literally, a state of war. A pivot to self-reliance.
A massive re-engineering project, not just swapping a few parts.
How massive are we talking?
Well, R&D spending ramped up massively, over $20 billion a year. Ren Zhengfei himself said later that in 3 years, they replaced over 13,000 US-sourced parts with domestic ones.
13,000.
Yeah, which meant redesigning something like 4,000 circuit boards. The sheer scale and speed, it's staggering.
And on the software side, they couldn't use Google's core services anymore.
So they launched their own OS. Just 3 months after the Android ban hit hard, they unveiled HarmonyOS or HongMeng in China.
An entirely new operating system that's notoriously difficult, even for tech giants.
It's a graveyard, exactly. But HarmonyOS was designed from the ground up to run across everything: phones, tablets, watches, even cars, building a whole ecosystem.
And has it worked?
In China, undeniably, yes.
Yeah.
By early 2024, HarmonyOS actually overtook Apple's iOS market share within China.
Overtook iOS. Wow.
Yeah. And as of now, something like 900 million devices are running it. They even launched a purer version. Cutting ties with the Android open source code, really pushing for independence, built their own app gallery store, their own core services.
Okay, software independence is one thing, but the chips. Everyone assumed they were blocked from cutting-edge manufacturing.
That's what made the Mate 60 Pro launch in 2023 such a shock.
The phone with the Kirin 9000S chip.
Exactly, a 7-nanometer 5G chip, fabricated domestically by SMIC, China's big foundry.
Which shouldn't have been possible under the sanctions, right? Because the advanced manufacturing tools are mostly Western.
Precisely. Nobody outside China knows exactly how SMIC pulled it off. But they did. It proved they'd found a way around the restrictions on key equipment. It was a massive engineering feat and a huge symbolic victory in China. Instant patriotic icon status.
So they're rebuilding hardware, rebuilding software, what else?
They even rebuilt their internal plumbing. They launched their own enterprise resource planning system, Meta RP, replacing external software for finance, operations, the whole 9 yards.
Taking everything in-house.
And looking longer term, they're developing their Ascend series of AI chips, directly challenging players like NVIDIA in that high-stakes AI hardware race.
Which isn't just about the chip, is it? It's the whole software ecosystem, like NVIDIA's CU.
Exactly. That's the real mountain to climb. Building not just the silicon, but the software stack that developers actually want to use. But they're clearly signaling they intend to compete there too.
So this whole crisis basically forced them to diversify like crazy, from telecom gear and phones to, well, everything tech.
Absolutely. Which leads us to where they are now globally. With the traditional carrier business facing headwinds in the West, they've pushed hard into Huawei Cloud.
Expanding where they can, right? Asia, Middle East, Latin America.
Aggressively. They're using their own AI models, the Pangu series, offering AI for industries. And it's working overseas. Cloud revenue jumped significantly in emerging markets. They're cost competitive, and they often tie into China's Belt and Road projects.
Which provides ready-made infrastructure opportunities.
Definitely. It's a strategic alignment. Another huge area is automotive tech.
Right. They're not building Huawei cars, but they're supplying the tech inside.
Exactly. Intelligent automotive solutions. HarmonyOS for the dashboard, advanced driver assistance systems, power electronics for EVs. The AITO brand with Series is a key example. Cars like the M9 SUV are marketed as having Huawei inside.
Showcasing their whole stack.
And then there's digital energy, smart solar inverters, home batteries under the Fusion Solar brand. They even helped build this massive solar plus storage microgrid project recently.
So cloud, AI, cars, energy, it's a completely different company now.
In many ways, yes. And with hardware sales hit, they also got smarter about monetizing their existing strength, patents.
Leveraging their huge portfolio, especially in 5G.
Right. They started licensing more actively, earned over $500 million in licensing fees in 2022 alone, signing deals with Samsung, OPPO, even rivals like Ericsson. It reinforces the message. You still need our core tech, even if you can't buy our boxes everywhere.
And underpinning all this is that Ren Zhengfei narrative, isn't it? Framing it as a war, needing to suffer, needing resilience.
That narrative became incredibly powerful, especially domestically. Huawei became the poster child for self-reliance, for standing up to external pressure, that thick-skin philosophy, as Ren calls it.
And that resilience plays out strongest in emerging markets today, right? They haven't vanished globally.
Not at all. Still operating in over 170 countries, still getting over half their revenue from outside China. In Africa, for instance, they built maybe 70% of the 4G networks. Many carriers there are sticking with Huawei for 5G because of cost and existing relationships.
And Latin America, the Middle East, less appetite to follow the U.S. bans?
Largely, yes. Brazil, Mexico, many countries in the Middle East, Huawei remains a key player. And again, linking projects like data centers to the Belt and Road Initiative helps secure business where Western firms might not focus.
Okay, so summing up, they went from global hardware leader to this diverse tech ecosystem provider. Chips, OS, AI, cloud, auto, energy.
It really demonstrates that technological decoupling, while incredibly painful, can actually drive incredibly rapid, domestically focused innovation if the will and resources are there.
It's an amazing story of adaptation. But you have to wonder, is it purely resilience? Or is it survival achieved by retreating? They lost huge chunks of their most profitable global businesses.
That's the tension, isn't it? They swapped global dominance in key sectors for domestic self-sufficiency and dominance in a protected ecosystem, plus a strong foothold in emerging markets.
So what does this massive push for self-reliance, not just by Huawei, but potentially by others, mean for, the future of global tech? Are we seeing a permanent split?
That really is the billion-dollar question, isn't it? Are we heading towards two parallel tech universes, one largely Western-aligned, one China-centric, where success isn't about seamless global integration anymore, but about achieving complete independence within your sphere? It certainly looks like we're moving in that direction.
A fascinating and slightly troubling thought to end on. Thanks for joining us. This is China Gateway, where we explore how the world connects with China one brand story at a time. See you next time.